Welcome into the Talkin Tide podcast on the Pigskin Podcast Network. I'm Chase Goodbread, sports columnist with the Tuscaloosa News, joined by Travis Reier, the longtime senior analyst at BamaOnline.com. You can get Talkin Tide wherever you prefer to get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts as well. You can get it on YouTube Live, get it on Facebook Live, and of course our Twitter feed is Talkin_Tide. Get links to all of our podcasts right there. We are a little bit late with this one. Typically, we convene on Sunday evenings. My travels back from Nashville in the SEC tournament yesterday. Actually, I traveled back today here on Monday. Stayed over Sunday because of selection show coverage kind of demanding that you stick around in Nashville after that championship game. Hence, we are a day later than normal here on Talkin Tide. But we're going to recap Alabama's SEC tournament title. Look ahead just a little bit to the NCAAA tournament. But Travis, the scene in Nashville was something. Alabama comes in there and pretty wallop wallops the competition. I mean, things were a little tight in that semifinal with Missouri for a while, certainly. But that ended up being an 11-point game and the smallest margin of victory of 3 games for Alabama. Quite a run.
Yeah, it was. And we talked about it. When this team reaches double-figure threes, it seems like the margins of victory get a little bit bigger or a good bit bigger. And that was the case in 2 of the wins, including the championship game win over Texas A&M. Alabama +7 in threes in that game. Hellacious defensive effort. And to me, that was the real storyline of the weekend for Alabama. Chase didn't give up more than 63 in any of those 3 games. Look, I know Texas A&M isn't 1990 Loyola Marymount. If that's a little bit of a dated reference, Google it. You'll see what I'm talking about. But you still got some really good guards for A&M and Wade Taylor and Tyrese Radford. And for a lot of that game, especially Taylor, who went for 28 against Alabama in College Station a couple of Saturdays ago. They put the clamps on him and did a good job of limiting the damage that duo was able to inflict. And then Brandon Miller just, when you expect the best player perhaps in all of college basketball to get it done, he did. He wasn't especially efficient on Sunday, 5 of 20 from the field. That's about as inefficient as you'll see Brandon Miller, but he still made 9 of 10 from the free throw line. And he helps Alabama in other ways, rebounding the basketball, 3 steals against the Aggies. So I'd say a feel-good trip to the Music City for Alabama as it gets ready for this NCAA tournament.
No doubt. Defense was certainly a theme for Nate Oates' squad throughout the run in Nashville. You mentioned clamping down on Wade Taylor. How about clamping down on Kobe Brown? The outstanding Missouri player in the semifinal. Now, he was not in the lineup against Alabama when the Crimson Tide faced Missouri earlier in the year. But he's a heck of a talent himself, and they shut him down to the tune of 6 points and 3 of 9 shooting. So whoever your ace is, Alabama looks like they're capable of taking them down.
Yeah, it seems like with some teams, it's, we'll let their guy get his, but don't let everybody else get theirs, Like Wade Taylor, maybe he'll get 28. I think Alabama, though, had a little bit of a chip on its shoulder because I think that A&M may have felt going into that game on Sunday that, we may have these guys' numbers, the way we play. We've got some guys in the backcourt that can get it done. I think Alabama played Sunday like they had something to prove. They weren't just satisfied with that regular season title, especially after losing to Texas A&M, the second place team. So that was a motivated team. That may have been, it's an intangible, but when you talk about teams that either have it or they don't have it, I think Alabama showed you that, they're up for about anything you want to throw at them at this point. And, stellar job really on the star players for each of the 3 teams. I guess Toulouse-Smith had a pretty good game statistically for Mississippi State, but that was certainly about it.
Yeah, Bediako playing good defense around the rim too. Travis, he had 11 blocked shots in the tournament. Had 5, I believe, in the quarterfinal and 5 more in the final. I guess 1 in that Saturday game. But yeah, he's tough to deal with defensively for sure, and his game has come along offensively a long way too, I think. And he's not great from the free throw line. I get it, but his touch around the basket, even if it's a stick back, he just looks smoother, Travis, to me, far more so than he did a year ago offensively.
Pretty good hands too for a footer, right? I mean, you see a lot of guys that size when you're working them in the screen and roll game. It can be hit and miss when you make that delivery to them going to the rim or just throwing them the basketball in general. So, yeah, I totally agree. I like how he's using the backboard around the basket. He's obviously put a lot of time in because his awareness off the catch, it's like he knows exactly where he's at in relation to the basket and is able to finish more in those situations. But no doubt, defensively, if he's going to be this kind of presence without fouling, that was key too, right? He didn't really have a game in those 3 where it was 2 quick ones in the first half, and now he's out and he's going to play 11 or 12 minutes for the game. If he can stay on the floor and defend the basket like that, hey, if he scores double figures like he did in Nashville, that's great. But he doesn't have to for this Alabama team to go a long, long way.
No, he certainly doesn't. I mean, and with the pick and rolls, the dunks, the stick backs, you would expect him to have the best field goal percentage on the team. But it doesn't get any better than 5 for 5. That's what he did against Missouri. He was 5 out of 6 against Mississippi State and 6 out of 9 against A&M. So he's gonna, when he gets his hands on it around the rim, it's looking like as close to an automatic 2 as you can get, unless you foul him. Obviously, you foul him, and he tends to be more of a 1 for 2 guy more often than not.
Yeah, he does. And if it makes you play that screen and roll game in a different way. If you try to play drop coverage, well, then these guards are capable of just continuing to the rim. If you have to account for Charles or Noah or these other guys in that action. So it's a good thing. It makes them even harder to defend when he can do that on the offensive end. He's not a guy that's going to shoot free throws at a high clip. I think we know that as well. But just his presence, man, playing 28, 29, 30 minutes, that makes him a different team.
Javon Quinterly, a big championship game and the victory over Texas A&M as well. Travis, 22 total points for him, by far his best tournament game. 8 out of 14 from the floor, hit 4 threes. He's a difference maker for this team for sure when he's shooting well. And when he's shooting well on top of securing the ball and not coughing up turnovers with a bad pass here and there, his plus minus always seems to be strong when he puts those 2 things together.
They do. And he's done a better job of that of late. And he thrived in that starting role in Nashville. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The numbers speak for themselves. And absolutely. The thing you like about Javon, and sometimes it doesn't work in his or Alabama's favor, is that you get into a situation where you're not scoring the basketball. There's one guy that will continue to attack and one guy who will continue to look to score to go along with Brandon Miller. And so, Jaden Bradley does a lot of really good things at the point guard position, but especially to start games. It just felt like Alabama was so sluggish on the offensive end. And Jaden isn't that type of point guard or lead guard, at least yet, that is going to look to score. He's going to look to facilitate scoring, but not score on his own as much. Well, Javon will go out and, he's not what I would say a shoot first point guard, but if you're going to leave him open or give him opportunities to score, he's not going to waste time in taking advantage of those or trying to anyway.
Right. Such different styles between Bradley and Quinterly in terms of what they do when they penetrate, right? Because with Bradley, obviously, he's a physical guy. He's going to get more whistles. He can finish better in traffic and contested drives to the hoop. Quinterly needs a free lane, but he's good for a blow by whenever you need it.
He's got the extra gear. Yeah.
So in light of that, Travis, if you're Nate Oates, is it as simple as watch it, scouting the other team, and if they're good with help, you want Bradley driving the floor because you're going to get more contested penetration. But if it's a defensively, if the team you're playing is late with help a lot, you put the ball in Quinterly's hand for the blow by, right? Or is it more complicated than that?
Well, I like Bradley, and I think Javon can do this too. If there's help concepts in play, which A&M, and we saw some other teams that have done that against Alabama that are willing to leave shooters, right, to have that extra defender come down, or maybe a post that rotates off of a player in the block to step in and take a charge. That was something that A&M was very willing to do. I like Jaden Bradley because he is excellent at identifying coverages like that. And then not only also locating or knowing where his guys are on the perimeter, but man, he tees shooters up so nicely with the way he delivers the basketball. And that goes back to kind of that retro approach that I think you get more with Jaden than you do Javon. So, yeah, I think there's a couple of different ways you can look at that, but I see where you're going with that for sure.
Quinterly's ability to lay one in high off the glass too, I think helps him when he gets in there and it looks like there's going to be more contact than he's expecting. When he's able to get off that lay in that's high off the glass before the defender is able to get physical with him, that can help him a whole lot too. So
can do it with either hand.
I think he got yes, yeah, and I think there was it one or two cylinder violations on A&M with Quinterly.
A couple of goaltends, took the ball off the glass. Yeah, there was.
But all right, at any rate, Alabama picks up victory number 29 on the season, Travis. That is a school record. I think, I guess, they're looking, we'll talk about this NCAA tournament a little bit on the back end here, but a historically good Alabama team already from a wins standpoint. To be called the best team, for me anyway, it's about how far you get in the dance. And they haven't even taken step one on that road yet. But in terms of overall talent, this team is looking like the number one overall seed that they've been selected as.
Brandon Miller's the best player of my lifetime at Alabama. That's my opinion. The best I've seen at Alabama, and he's a freshman. So I'm already there with Brandon Miller, but you are absolutely correct. You are defined by the NCAA tournament. At the end of the day, right or wrong, fair or not, all the wins, it does come down to how you perform in the NCAA tournament. And by Alabama standards, I think if Alabama just gets to the 16, you can go ahead and say this is the best team. I know that Alabama's had a team get to the 8, 15, 20 years ago now almost. But that was a team defined entirely by about 3 games in the NCAA tournament that season. This team has won an SEC regular season title. It has won an SEC tournament title. It has won, as you said, a program record 29 games. It has the best player in program history. To me, it's there.
Deepest team they've ever had.
I've seen. And so, there's still some work to be done, I think, for a lot of folks before they're willing to go all the way there with that sort of statement as it relates to these next couple of weekends.
All right, the Talkin Tide podcast on the Pigskin Podcast Network, the Twitter feed, Talkin_Tide. Travis and I are going to thank a couple of sponsors here really quickly. We're going to start by telling you all about DraftKings. Ready for the underdogs, the upsets, the unbelievable action from the DraftKings Sportsbook. The biggest tournament in college basketball is here right now. New customers can bet just $5 on college hoops and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, for a limited time, all customers can score a no-sweat bet during the round 1 or round 2 of the NCAA tournament. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Sign up with the promo code TPPN. New customers, once again, can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Once again, it's promo code TPPN. That'll help us out here at Talkin Tide, only at the DraftKings Sportsbook.
Going to tell you about Peterbrook Chocolatier out there at 1530 McFarland Boulevard North. It's spring break week in Tuscaloosa, so you're going to have spring break hours this week at Peterbrook, Tuscaloosa, 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. Monday through Friday this week. So if you're counting on getting those Roll Tide treats in advance of the NCAA tournament, do it. 11 to 4, Monday through Friday this week. Return to normal hours next Monday. Easter is right here upon us, so you need to get in there and check out all the great Easter goodies. Peterbrook Chocolatier, 1530 McFarland Boulevard North in the Indian Hills section of Tuscaloosa.
I was in Peterbrook on the last day I was in Tuscaloosa before traveling to Nashville for the SEC tournament. I got my new favorite in there. They've got these chocolate-covered sea salt caramels that sit on the corner of the front counter right between the gelato and the cash register. And I'm making a beeline for those chocolate-covered sea salt caramels every time I go in there now, I think.
Yeah, you can get just one, but in the words of Pappy O'Daniel, we ain't one at a time in it. We mass consume it.
Yeah,
you got a mass consumer. And I'll tell you another one too. Right there with that is the peanut butter melt away. If you like the peanut butter chocolate combination, when they say melt away, that's exactly what they do. The peanut butter melt aways.
Can't beat it. Peterbrook Chocolatier of Tuscaloosa. All right, the Talkin Tide podcast on the Pigskin Podcast Network. Moving on, Travis. NCAA tournament on tap. The Crimson Tide taking on a play-in winner on Thursday over in Birmingham. It'll be a 1:45 p.m. tip against the winner of Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Southeast Missouri State. Obviously, we know the history of 16s and 1s, Travis. Beyond Thursday, if Alabama takes care of business, as you would expect them to, it would be the winner of Maryland and West Virginia. And elsewhere in the region, you've got Arizona creeping around in there as a 2 seed. Your thoughts, I guess, on the whole region for Alabama beyond just this Thursday game?
Yeah, I guess Hey Coach earlier this evening, I guess Nate said that he thought that the region was pretty tough when you consider Alabama's the number 1 overall seed. I think it's navigable for sure. I mean, I'm like everyone else. I would love to see an Alabama-Arizona Elite 8 matchup. Alabama twice before has sent Arizona packing from NCAA tournament. So some history there between Arizona and Bama. But work to be done for sure. And I think Nate is also thinking about that potential second round matchup on Saturday with Huggy Bear and his Mountaineers of West Virginia or Maryland. And you're talking about 2 teams from 2 of the very best leagues in college basketball. So, either way, if it's Maryland or it's West Virginia, it's not going to be a skate. I mean, that could be a game similar to a Missouri or even tighter in that situation. And look, Birmingham hasn't been especially kind to Alabama here of late, has it? So
no.
Need to get on the positive side of that thing and do some good things at Legacy Arena. But as far as that region, you got Virginia, which if you get to the 16 and the seeding holds, could be a ultimate styles make fights game because Virginia plays at a pace that is nothing like what Alabama wants to do. And then on the lower side, I think Missouri could be a problem, perhaps for Arizona in the second round down there. We'll see. I think Arizona's size could be a real issue for Missouri, but man, you get into some of these 7-10 games like Missouri's in, I think Arizona will be okay, but there's always going to be an upset or two in just about every bracket.
I swore off filling out brackets a couple of decades ago, but
I'm not big on it either, man.
No, just torn too many of them up. But it is always a lot of fun to watch these matchups. Always a little drama with those second round games, right? You always there's always the conspiracy theory. Did they set up this second round game? Did they set up that one for the for the extra storyline here or there? So much fun to see how that shakes down. But yeah, potentially, Maryland or West Virginia in that second round for Alabama. If Alabama is able to get through Birmingham, Travis, it's on to Louisville. From there would be the next host site.
Yeah. And I thought Alabama would probably be looking at a potential rematch somewhere along the road in its bracket, and I guess Missouri would qualify for that at some point well down the road. But I kind of felt like there might be a UConn in there for Alabama, maybe a Gonzaga, so for me, I think that's to Alabama's advantage, not just because those teams beat Alabama, but they haven't seen, everybody in their bracket that they're going to go against hasn't seen Alabama, hadn't seen this team this year. So nobody has the book on you, so to speak.
Local talk in Nashville coming out of the tournament, Travis, obviously focused on the Vanderbilt Commodores, who did not get into the big dance. What say you? If they knock off A&M in the semifinal, are they dancing today, or would that still not have gotten it done?
Joe Lunardi said before that game that if Vanderbilt were to knock off A&M, he was going to have them in. And they did not, and he did not. So I'd say Joe was on it. And Joe's pretty good with those numbers. Those coaches don't like Joe. Those coaches on the outside don't like Joe real good, but Joe, more often than not, he's got those numbers like a shield, he holds up in front of those coaches, and they try to hammer him. But no, look, Vanderbilt down the stretch did a lot of good things. But they're going to have to settle for a win over Kentucky, and that's going to have to be enough and move on to the NIT.
In the what if, well, might as well stay in the what if realm for a minute. If the Heels had found a way to topple the Crimson Tide in one of 4 overtimes or regulation, are they dancing?
That's the thing about all this. We forget about the games in November, and not just in terms of what they do for a resume just for one game, but how they change the trajectory maybe for a team in general, what it does for a team. Those wins in November can be very important as well for a couple of different reasons. But, Carolina pulled the Judge Schmales basically on the NIT, turning up their nose at the NIT and not playing in it. So I'm not a big Carolina guy, I guess, at the end of the day. So it doesn't pain me. It doesn't pain me to see the Tar Heels staying at home. Although I would have enjoyed Roy Williams sitting 2 rows behind the bench for a home NIT game. I would have enjoyed that. Yeah. Because Roy likes
put that
to sit
8x10
bench,
framed on Travis's
he
wall.
Likes to sit behind that bench, Roy.
Love it. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of the Talkin Tide podcast. Travis and I will reconvene after this Birmingham session coming up with the Crimson Tide entering the NCAA tournament. Until then, we'll talk to you next time. For Travis Reier of BamaOnline.com, I'm Chase Goodbread, sports columnist with the Tuscaloosa News, and we'll come at you next time on Talkin Tide.